Hi, welcome to the first economic capsule of The Voice of Heidie Calero in 2020. Unfortunately, the year has not started well for Puerto Rico. We've had tremors, especially in the southern part of the island. Lots of people, population in the southern part of the island without electricity, without homes, and living in fear of returning to their homes because the tremors continue. So we want to emphasize today this solidarity that things will get better. It's going to take a while, but they will get better. We would like to focus on this economic capsule on the story of Puerto Rico, a story of success as well as a story of failures, a story of economics, a story of politics. Why Puerto Rico, a poor house of the Caribbean back in the 1940s, with nothing to lose but poverty, became the shining star of the Caribbean in the late 50s and the decade of the 60s. What made it? What were the factors that were critical in having Puerto Rico this miraculous transformation with Operation Bootstrap? I'd like to show you the graph that depicts the economic growth of Puerto Rico back in the 1960s. Notice again, since 1948 up to the beginning of the decade of the 1970s, Puerto Rico's real GNP growth, 11.8% growth, 9.8% growth, sustained positive economic growth as never seen before in this island. What were the critical success factors? Well, for one thing, we had the vision, the political will of politicians such as Governor Luis Muñoz Marin, the designation of Governor Rexford Tugwell by the United States back in 1948, and then after the war, and then Governor Muñoz Marin, first elected governor in Puerto Rico in 1948, the Constitution of Puerto Rico back in 1952 with the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico with one goal in mind. Economics was not going to be subservient to the political status. It was time to leave poverty and to engage in economic growth. And that's what that economic team, political and economic team, engaged in. We saw the modernization of Puerto Rico with tools such as, yes, the federal tax exemption from income tax. We had the exemption from the federal minimum wage, so lower labor costs in Puerto Rico. But we also needed a new tool, which took a while for such giants as Teodoro Moscoso, the head of the industrialization in Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rico Economic Development Administration, finally convincing Governor Muñoz Marin that Puerto Rico needed a stronger tool, and that had to be the local tax exemption, because with low labor costs, it was not going to do it. With just access to the U.S. market, it was not going to do it. We needed something strong for investors to come to Puerto Rico and realize that the island could offer the opportunities that would culminate in profits, which after all, that's what investors are looking for. So we had then the hegemony of elections with a continuation of this political party, of this political will through the 1960s, 1965, the economic growth. We had Puerto Rico's Camelot together in the Alliance for Progress with the U.S., with the Kennedy administration, and Puerto Rico lived one of its thriving economic transformations that the world depicted, and the U.S. depicted Puerto Rico as that economic project that could compare with the Cuba's revolution, and that it was the peaceful democratization of economic progress with Puerto Rico as the shining star of the Caribbean. All of this was not done freely. It was done through hard work, through an uphill path that culminated in economic growth, in the industrialization of Puerto Rico, in culture, in the Casals Festival, in the tropical medicine, School of Medicine in Puerto Rico, taking care of diseases which decimated Puerto Rico's population, and which it also engaged in the irreconcilable conflict that now a small island was faced with an explosion of population. In the next chapters, in our next economic capsules, we're going to focus on some of the failures of Puerto Rico. What were the ingredients? So stay tuned for the next economic capsule.